Hello, and good morning, or evening as well. So, there have been some pretty reasonable upgrades since last time. I figure the 30 walls. So, yeah, these guys get, just pretty standard upgrades. However, this right here, they basically got this one to make them more of a target for any casters around, and this one to hopefully pretty much get some extra damage out of that, so see how that works out. We got these two just kind of standard upgraded. These three, however, are all on sticks at this point because the previously mentioned plan for the future with lots of stabs, and then, Steve got his axe again because he needs his axe. Such is life. How it goes, it is part of nature. All of that sort of thing. Yeah, still can't change any of this. Pretty much right after, on the way over here, gonna run into the wall. So at that point, probably gonna end up going back and maybe running through Tynemouth a couple times just to get everybody updated on stuff if they need to. I think by and large, though, the wall is mostly avoided at this point. With how he changed a lot of stuff to be Chapter 4 instead of post game. At this now we don't do that. At this point, you can at least have a reasonable chance if you run into the wall. So that's all well and good. Mission's gonna stay the same as it was. Good. Oh, they'll get very far, sir. Get very far. Oh yeah, since rain is coming up here, kind of makes me think of a conversation I had with someone recently. Long short was over the different accuracy rates in different strategy games thing, because that seems to come up every now and then. Like, specifically, I've been mentioned it last time. I've been going through Xenonauts for the first time. Been going through XCOM stuff for like a decade now, since the moment I ended up first running into it. But yeah, no. It's weird how contextual accuracy can end up being. Like, in this case, you still wind up with a lot of cases where you're basically taking 50% or lower odds, but everybody's, doing a lot more back and forth, so it isn't really as much of a concern. Taking Zeno as an example there, it's pretty normal to take 20% shots just all the time because, well, your odds aren't going to be terribly good unless you've got people in really good positions hitting somebody that's not even remotely defended, which doesn't really happen that often except for certain types of stuff. And my god, that thing just comes up with all kinds of new scary crap every time I think it's finally starting to make sense. But such life, I suppose. But yeah, no, it's kind of insane how much stuff is in there, really. Basically, I know I was just ranting on about this last time too, but if you've played, the original, like, UFO Defense or any of that, you come to a point where everything's pretty much laid out in front of you. You know what's around. You know more or less how to what to expect and how to counter everything. And it's interesting because, ooh, dang, some stuff just fell down. Jump. Thanks, cat. Anyway, so yeah, you eventually get to a point where everything is just, clear and right in front of you. And it seems like the entirety of the design of Zeno there was kind of based around the idea of just subverting all those expectations people had, in pretty severe ways, I gotta say. Like, okay, so, in case somebody's looking at this and doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, the entire genre goes on a relatively kind of samey pattern. You got 3 tiers of stuff, more or less, that you're trying to get through. You start off with pretty crappy technology, and usually just, people who can't hit the broadside of their own face. And, yeah. You're like, okay, so there's, an invasion that just gets more and more crazy as time goes on because of whatever contrived reason that they can't just all invade at once. In this one's case, it was just like, oh, you know, they can't really figure out the oxygen levels, so they can only show up for, you know, tiny amounts, and they're trying to go and rework all their stuff to make it not a problem. Which is, honestly, one of the better explanations I've heard for it. Well, at any rate, the original was kind of a mess of constant chaos, which is what made it challenging and fun and everything, because it was seemingly just different odds for stuff to spawn at different times through this whole invasion thing, because you're basically going and you're building bases and you're, you know, researching new stuff and whatever. And, you know, the idea is hopefully you can keep pace with the other side there, and hopefully you don't get completely vaporized, but if you get a little bit behind, you know, you can still kind of make do. You know, you run into some crazy UFO tank thing, surprisingly, you can still eventually take that with basic rifles or whatever. It's just going to take some time. So, the original had this strange system where it was 0 to 200% damage for every single thing, so like I said, you know, somebody has a friggin' World War II rifle kind of thing in their hands, and it's okay. There's still a chance, also fun, there's still a chance that they will completely vaporize a tank, but yeah, this also led to the same thing where you have somebody in power armor or whatever, and yeah, just something plinks them and they just get vaporized, so that was it. So, here's the thing. What I was saying about it subverting expectations. It seems like it's this whole system of actively countering whatever you're doing at all times, so instead of being like this chaotic mess of random things happening, it actively tries to counter you, and what, I don't know what the proper term is, but I like to refer to it as kick you in the dick technology. Basically, like for example, one thing that happened recently, going and, you know, just figured, okay, we'll try this base assault thing that you can do, which is just over time, if enough stuff gets past your airplanes and stuff like that, they set up a base somewhere, and yeah, then basically have to stop the thing, or else they get way faster progress than normal and cause all kinds of problems, and can basically resupply faster than you can do stuff and that sort of thing. But yeah, so it's this constant war of logistics that you're trying to fix. But so, one of those popped up, and I have like 6 bases around with a crap ton of planes all over the place, and everything's more or less covered. They specifically send just slightly more than my group can handle in one particular area. So basically all the planes are out just getting repaired and stuff like that. All these other areas are just left untouched, that are completely just out of range or whatever else. And yeah, so then I figure, okay, the base thing has to go, so then send a helicopter over there, and the first group goes in, and they get right to the very end of this entire thing, and then just basically get crushed at the last second. Because, you know, you get some bad rolls, and suddenly everything's gone completely to crap. Which is kind of the name of that game. Like, you're honestly a lot like this. You get a couple bad rolls, and you can recover, but it's going to be a lot more difficult going forward. I don't really know why I did that, because that's not what I was trying to do. Oh well. Not terribly concerned about this fight, that's why I'm ranting on about different things. But okay, so, you know, all seems well and good up to that point, but the group gets wiped out. So I figure, okay, I've got a B team there, I've got some planes left over, so I send those planes to go escort it. The escort of it runs out of gas, and like a second later, a bunch of things show up and shoot down the helicopter, because they do that, which I'm pretty sure they couldn't do in the original or any of the remakes or sequels or anything. So, you know, comes over and shoots that one down. I figure, okay, you know, gonna set up a blanket of a bunch of different stuff, and like everything you do, it constantly counters, and it's really interesting to see. I honestly wish more stuff would do something like that, and it got me wondering specifically about this. You know, like, what would happen if somebody managed to make an AI for this that actively countered everything that you were trying to do? Because the original kind of sort of did, the SNES one. You know, there were times where they would just basically see that they're losing a fight, so they would turtle up. So, I don't know. It's never gonna happen, I'm sure, but it just would be really cool to see. There's too many factors in this case for it to actually work, or for it to actually happen. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that all of their brain stuff got upgraded too, so they're all completely up to scratch at this point. Ooh, fight right there, but I guess that's... Alright. Laser toots. Toots. Good. Eventually... That one. I have so many TP abilities on these guys, it's kind of nuts. Almost doesn't even make sense to have so many. But I will. So, yeah, long story short, kinda makes me wonder, like, if you're doing this thing, like, where you're going and surrounding all of them, and they found a way to, let's say they had a little warlock guy in the back, and they would just teleport their leader out, and then, you know, send forward a whole bunch of guys with the rampart or something. It would be cool to see. It, you know, like I said, 50 billion times. I know it's not going to happen. I'm pretty sure the AI can't even be edited in any way. But, still. Honestly, it's a wonder that stuff has worked out as well as it has. Alright, let's Lambus. Totally going to use a different party than we've been using up to this point. Weird, once they hit 30. Alright. Goat, who can also be Vance at this point, I believe. But yeah. Have not been doing much else aside from, like, frickin' Xenonauts. Watching the kid and all that lately. So... These will be slow going. Who knows, maybe a couple of weeks or something. Still financially recovering and all that. And there's only so much stuff I can do while waiting on hold. So much of my time is dead. Sitting in. That's weird. Kinda weird. Oh well. I think the purple ones here can go. By the way, the short bows are actually still straight upgrades. The other stuff got side grades. Bows and guns did not. Still sounds like there's furniture upstairs. Constant noises of barking dog, furniture, crying babies. What's going on up there? Know what's going on outside. That is a angry little chihuahua thing pooping on the porch. Gross, isn't it? Yeah, well. And a bit closer here and deal with this problem. This annoys me. I hope that this is something that can be fixed. Like, if you aim right here, there's really no excuse for it not to be able. You just basically can't aim there just because of weird technicalities. Yes, technically you're trying to get around a dead zone restriction, but dumb, I think. Like, I like dead zone restrictions and all that, but that kind of case, it's like, okay, you can really just aim a little hair to your right, you know? I think you can possibly survive that change. Alright. This one, I want to say this one's actually one of the ones where the leader tends to hold it together a lot better than many of the other fights. Patient and Lance in particular, better about actually keeping themselves alive and not running to the very... Actually, one thing that happened recently, going through vanilla, too, and I noticed, Mercure, I think was his name? The guy, in one of the sides, I want to say north side? It's the upper map, anyway. the kind of flatter map that has written on... I don't know. No. The Swan. Which one's the Swan? Isia? I don't know. The one that's called the Swan. Whatever. So the front gate of that one, the Swordmaster guy, was kind of just... and for whatever reason, that guy just seems... He seemed much more willing to actually stay back and not run forward as much. Now, I think it just might be because the fight in general was taking longer and his speed was far lower, so he had a shorter time to actually run up front. So it seemed like in the original, because the way that the RT went, he actually got to the front more eventually than right away, so not get killed off as easily. I kind of wonder if it's possible to lower RT of certain leaders for survival. Yeah, broken on my own tongue there, but survivable. Like in that case, as I said, he basically just was too slow in the original, so he didn't actually get to the fight, and his other guys were usually gone by the time he got there, which I assume is actually how they ended up trying to get around their whole AI limitations. It certainly feels that way, in my mind. I could be completely wrong, and missing their hair out at the utter stupidity of mentioning such a thing, but I kind of think that's how that goes. Just a theory. It's a workable theory, who knows? Usual. Let's move his walking problems. Of course. Parry. No parry. Oh yeah. So, notes on balance from before, like I was talking about. Like, if this had similar system of just like attacking in areas rather than attacking individuals or whatever else, I kind of wonder how it would work. Like, again, not exactly a idea, but just curiosity. Covers, so. Now, what I'm talking about, there's a lot of strategy games, and specifically a lot of older, like, or modern military type strategy games, that there was a lot more attacking areas. Total War did the same thing, but just kinda, it adds that whole option of suppressing certain areas instead of going out of your way for a particular target or whatever else. I guess it's just a change in concepts and all that. I want to say that role is kind of fulfilled by casters in this one. Also, which is kind of why I'm wondering how it would work if you had archers doing a similar thing. Where they would spend their turn just kind of firing in a general area as opposed to just a guy on the board. Is it fair to call it a board? Kind of a board. A board crossed off at the very ends and everything. Actually, it's kind of funny because I was talking to my niece. That's a shit. No, I was talking to my niece while I was on vacation. I kept looking at this. Like, why can't you go off the board? It looks like Minecraft. Why can't you dig? Why can't you jump? That was just funny. Yeah, it's not Minecraft. Although it certainly would be funny if you'd be able to just dig a hole underneath somebody. Chuck them into lava. Can you not chuck units into lava? You know what? Before 1.0, that's the real feature that has to be added. The ability to chuck stuff into lava. Alright, anyway, see you next time.